Thanks for joining me. So just before I get started, I want to give a bit of a background on what this video and, well, hopefully short series is going to be all about. So I wanted to do something that's based at an absolute total beginner, somebody that had never tied flies before. So I sat and I thought about it for a little while and I thought, what would be very simple to tie that uses minimal materials, a couple of the very basic core techniques, and then how could we expand on it? So what I'm going to go for today is it's going to be a very simple black spider. We're going to cover a couple of very basic techniques and we'll go from there. Hopefully the next episode I'll add maybe 1-2 materials at the max and show how a simple black spider can progress into another pattern, something a bit more complicated. And well, we'll see how many episodes we can get out of it, changing it fly by fly, pattern by pattern. So right, let's get started. Hook I have in the vise is a Kamasan B175, size 12, and the thread I'm going to be using is black uni thread in 80. So basically black spider, simple black spider, you need 2 materials. You need your thread, and then I have a black hen cape here, and basically that's all it is. So to start off, we take our black thread and we catch on just behind the eye, a couple of mil. So holding our tag end, touching turns, using our tag for the thread to just to slide down every time, touching turns the whole way down. Black spider's a great pattern, super for brown trout. It'll fish in just about any river, and spiders in general are really good flies to learn on because very few materials, very few techniques and colour combinations. You can just, well, go wherever you want with it. There's loads and loads of different patterns. So I've took my thread down now to between the point and the barb. Now I'm not going to break this off, I'm going to use it as a rib for coming back up. So just bring my rib, or not my rib, sorry, my tying thread again, trying to keep the turns touching, just to cover your shank so there's none of it showing through. I'll go a bit quicker here. And we just bring it back up to where we whipped on. That's us about there. Now I'm going to take my tag end of thread and use this as a rib. Just helps add a bit more security to the fly. Stops it, well, you maybe get a few more fish out of it before the teeth rip it apart. So nice open turns, even open turns the whole way up to where we finished our thread, and 3 or 4 turns just to secure that down. In with our scissors and trim it off. So for our hackle, this is one I've already picked out for for the length of your fibre. I like it to go from the point of where you're tying it in basically to pretty much the point. If it's a little bit shorter, that's fine. It doesn't really, dropped it there, doesn't really matter much to me. So we're going to peel off some of the fluff at the back and open out our tip. Now the natural curve of the feather, you want it pointing down, so you've the top of the feather and the bottom of the feather, or the underside. We're just going to tie our tip in, half a dozen or so turns, and come in and trim off our waist. Now we'll take our hackle pliers, and you don't really need very many turns of this at all. So sweeping back our fibres, being nice and gentle because the small feathers have very fine hackle stalks. They're easy to break or pull out. So there's basically 1, 2, and we'll go for another full turn just to allow for a few fibres getting ripped and chewed by trout. 3 full turns. So we'll catch that in. 3 turns of thread to secure it down. Trim off our waste. And then any wee fibres sticking forward, just peel them back with finger and thumb. And a couple of wraps just to get them to sit back. So just looking at that on the screen, and that's not too bad. It's sparse, but I like spiders quite sparse. You could have went for a longer hackle if you want it, but no, that one will do me. Now, there we go, whip finish tool. So this is a whip finish tool. You can either whip finish it with the tool or by hand. Now, rather than spend too much time explaining it, I do have another video which I will add to the playlist. I was going to compose a new playlist for this beginner series. So if you're unsure about whip finishing, either with the tool or by hand, it should be on there somewhere reasonably handy. So just whip finish off, half a dozen or so turns, trim your thread off, and a spot of varnish. And that's it, done and dusted. Now, since this was quite a short video, we'll go for the next variation now, which basically it's going to be a black and silver spider. So just with the addition of a silver wire rib, that'll take us to our next pattern. So there's another B175 into the vise, and I'll just catch on. I'll tie this more in real time rather than slowing it down, just because we've already covered these couple of techniques, or this part. So I'm going to be using some silver Semperfli wire for the rib. So our waste thread, we don't need it. We can either cut it off or just break it off. It'll break off right at your last wrap. And then take a few inches of silver wire, lie it up the shank. It doesn't matter if it's slightly longer than the eye. And we'll just go touch and turns, and then, well, maybe we have too many turns on there. No, we'll just pull it down, just pull it back to where we want it. A little bit more, that's us. So again, touch and turns, back up to where we caught our thread on at. There we go, getting there. Now we take our wire, and much the same as our previous fly, open turns. The last fly might have been difficult to see with it being the same colour as the body, but the silver wire gives a nice contrast. It should be quite visible in the video. Now 3 or 4 turns, there's 5 even, over the top of the thread or wire, a couple in the front of it. And for wire, you don't really need to cut it off with your scissors. You can do, but if you wiggle it back and forth round, it'll just worry off. So we take our black hackle, hen hackle, just the same as the previous fly, strip off the fluff, offer up the tip, just open it out. Tie it down in with a few wraps, trim off our waste, and again in with the hackle pliers, nice and gentle, fold our fibres back. They want to go forward, so we'll make sure. Right, 1 turn, 2 turns, we'll go for 3 again with this one. Three turns of the hackle, come in with our thread, 3 or 4 turns in front or behind, 3 or 4 turns in front, and then you can either cut it off or just break it off like that. Stroke our fibres back, and once again come in and whip finish. So there you have two very simple patterns. They're not difficult to tie, they require very few materials, but they will catch plenty of trout. So I'm going to add a list of materials for these two patterns, and because there's not much to them, I'll also add a few different patterns for you to try. Just very simple. Again, popular spider patterns, Partridge and Orange, Partridge and Yellow, Snipe and Purple, just things like that. So hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to try and get the next episode up in a couple of days, certainly less than a week. And just once again, thanks for watching, and hopefully it was some use to you.